KREM 2 News begins now.
With winter behind us, we want to take a moment to look back at the biggest news stories of 2023 so far. Thank you for joining us for this KREM 2 Plus special. I'm Tim Pham. We built this list based on the stories that our viewers clicked on at KREM.com. Let's get started with number 10, and it's a story that could bring Spokane to the big screen. Janelle Finch sat down with a local filmmaker who chose to make a movie right here in Eastern Washington.
An Eastern Washington alum just wrapped up production on his latest sci-fi comedy featuring stars like Joe McHale and Danny Trejo, all filmed right here in Spokane, Washington. Writer and director Stimson Sneed says he's proud of the place that helped him build his filmmaking craft, and he wouldn't want to make his movie anywhere else. Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox got its name as a 2021 short film, created in the mind of Stimson Sneed.
This bit here, I love this bit.
Now, Sneed is working to take that short to the big screen.
It is about what happens when a time traveler creates a time machine, goes back in time 1 minute, kills his younger self, and then nothing happens. What he just did means that he should not exist, and yet he somehow does. And so he spends the rest of the movie trying to figure out why this isn't breaking the universe.
The movie will include several recognizable actors, like Joe McHale and Danny Trejo, and other stars. You'll just have to wait and see.
I'm really excited for what we've made.
The Seattle native and Eastern Washington alum currently lives in Los Angeles, but he says he wanted to bring his movie back to a place he calls home.
Very nice guy who owns a couple local bars, who was remodeling a basement bar in downtown. He took a meeting with me the very next day. The place could not have been more cater-made to my needs and production needs, and we just went and did it. So for Spokane, it's like the community just seems to want to help. That whole process should have taken me weeks in LA. Would have been an exhausting process anywhere else in the country.
He says he hopes aspiring artists will see great filmmakers can come from the Inland Northwest.
You don't need to go to LA. Like maybe one day you need to go to LA, but at least for the immediate future, there is a huge amount in this community. Find it and dive in. Take it from me, the stuff in LA is only marginally better, and you're competing with 50 million other people for it.
Sneed is looking forward to bringing his sci-fi comedy to audiences across the country. He says this time travel movie will be like nothing you've ever seen. Sneed says the goal is to finish making the movie by the end of the year and get it on streaming services and in select theaters. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Coming in at number 9, it's the ongoing battle to fund and build the North-South Freeway. When Governor Jay Inslee proposed delaying the project in his latest budget, local leaders fought back. Here's a look at our most recent update on the story and a detailed timeline of the project.
The North-South Freeway might not be delayed after all. A new transportation budget in the Washington State House would keep funding in place for the North Spokane corridor. This comes after Jay Inslee proposed delaying the project at the beginning of the year. 70 years. That's how long Spokane residents been waiting for the North-South Freeway.
I think that it should go forward faster. It helps the community. It provides jobs for people. And it seems to be, a big issue.
Bobby Fowler has lived in Spokane her whole life. She says it's getting frustrating at how long the freeway is taking.
It's been a big inconvenience just due to the fact that there are a lot of roads that you're not able to access because of it.
In January, Inslee cited rising construction costs and less money available to fund the project. This would have delayed the project for 6 years or more. But people might not have to wait longer than they thought.
We want to see this happening. The project is going full swing right now. So why stop something that's already happening?
The House released its transportation budget proposal yesterday, featuring some key changes from Governor Jay Inslee's proposed transportation budget. In the proposal, lawmakers like Marcus Riccelli want to continue to fund major projects like the North Spokane corridor.
We were most opposed to a halt in the project because we knew that it would cause significant economic impacts to our region. So completing this will keep good paying jobs moving forward and get us closer to less emissions, quicker travel times.
The Washington State Department of Transportation told KREM 2 that the North-South Freeway project is on track to be finished in 2028. So for now, Bobby doesn't mind the construction.
It's good. We get a lot of the construction workers in the morning before they start work, coming in to get coffee. They come in and get snacks, treats.
The project first broke ground in 2001, and when completed will be a 10.5-mile stretch of highway from Windermere to I-90. The proposed budget for the North Spokane corridor is set for more than $166 million, and it still needs the approval of lawmakers and the governor. In the newsroom, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
On the front page of the 7-cent Spokane Daily Chronicle in 1957, a March snowstorm blasts the inland northwest, and a freeway route may be decided by a 5-man panel. Yes, they were talking about the North-South Freeway.
Stage 2 would go out for construction.
Terrence Lynch is WashDOT's project engineer for the NSC. He says the goal then and still today is to take some of the burden off of the arterials.
To relieve congestion and move, people and freight from point A to point B much faster than using Division Street.
KREM TV first went on the air in 1954. I decided to go into the KREM 2 archives to see what I could find.
The church known for the messages on its signs. Yesterday, it held its last service at the corner of Freya and 4th.
This is where the interchange for I-90 and the North Spokane Freeway will be.
Today, Paul Rodkey took me to where the church once stood. The state bought their property 15 years ago. I showed him the footage from their last service.
Did it bring any emotions, any good memories?
Oh, just good memories, because congregations are the church. It's not the building, it's the people. They had an aerial picture of like the changes that the North Spokane corridor was going to make. And I looked down there and I saw that Bethany indeed was in the footprint of that. There's going to be a big pillar right here supporting the on-ramp that goes to I-90 East.
WashDOT estimates they've held more than 600 public meetings connected to the freeway. There was even a proposal to make Division a one-way until the freeway was complete. But the problem with that...
Going up Division, light after light after light after light.
Rossi laid out his transportation plan.
Dino Rossi, Washington's top Republican candidate in 2008 for governor, said then, if elected, he would have finished the North-South Freeway.
Do you believe that statement still?
Oh, absolutely. It's still necessary. The northeast corner of the state's pretty well neglected, it seems like. My feelings towards this corridor haven't changed. I think the situation is more dire now than it even was then.
Well, people have been waiting years, even decades, for the North-South Freeway to open. Now that a stretch finally has, there's nobody on it. And we shot that in the middle of the road, standing in a lane, and I never had to dodge a car. After all of that hype, nobody seemed to care because it didn't get to anywhere that anybody needed to go.
This is former KREM 2 reporter William Pitts. He's covered the freeway project extensively for years. He's now a reporter for our sister station in Phoenix.
I mean, I've been in Phoenix for 12 years. We've built 2 freeways in the time that I've been here. And you guys are still trying to get another 5 miles done on that freeway.
Some would say the biggest hurdle for the project is funding and the back and forth to push the project through. Like in 1974, funding was actually deleted entirely from the budget, or in 2003 when a 5-cent gas tax was imposed. But the biggest funding accomplishment came in 2015 when the legislature passed the Connecting Washington Revenue Package, fully funding the project.
But they spread the money out over 14 years. So 2015 to 2029.
But now, with Governor Inslee's latest budget proposal, that funding could be in jeopardy.
What I'd say to people in office now, it's long overdue. Come on, take care of this. This matters. This matters for the region.
Some are optimistic.
The proof is there. The project is happening.
Others are not so sure.
Since I've done that story, I've gotten married, I've had a kid, she's 8.5, she's driven on that freeway and seen it not finished. So I don't know. At this point, hopefully, I hope I'm not doing this again in 20 years with you when I'm 60.
Our next story helped return thousands of dollars back to people who had no idea they were owed money in the first place. The money comes from the Washington Department of Revenue, which is holding about $2 billion in unclaimed property. You can text the word cash to 509-448-2000 to find out if you have money waiting to be returned back to you. In the meantime, here's a look at how the program works. We all know the feeling when you find money in your pocket you never knew you had.
So it's kind of fun to kind of convince people, hey, this is not a scam. This is money that's owed to you. And, they're they're really surprised.
And Joe Giesler's agency may have your money waiting to be claimed.
Any money that maybe a business may have owed you and they could not get it to you.
It's called Unclaimed Property, a legitimate agency whose purpose is to protect you, the consumer. After 1 to 3 years, a business or government entity has to send the money to the Department of Revenue to hold until it's matched to the consumer.
How much money are we talking about? Are these small sums of money or are these large sums of money?
Well, we currently hold about $1.8 billion in unclaimed property that we're looking for the rightful owner. The average claim amount is about $131, but that includes, we have some claims that are over $1 million, and then we have, claims that are, $5.
I tracked down a Spokane family to see how much money they could get back from the state.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Have either of you heard of unclaimed property?
Not until last week.
I've heard of it prior to you reaching out to us, but had never done anything with it.
But when KREM 2 walked them through the process, they learned each had money waiting to be claimed.
I definitely was surprised, and then I was really surprised to see who the money was coming from.
Jeff had $400 waiting to be claimed from his former employer and a medical bill he overpaid. So where does unclaimed cash come from? It could be a closed bank account, uncashed checks, or rebates, to name a few. Basically, any money that a business could owe you can become unclaimed property.
Otherwise, if it stays with the business, they may never know that they had that money.
So here's how you find out if you have unclaimed property. Go to claimyourcash.org, type in your name to search for property, then select your property and click claim. How much money did each of you receive?
Close to $1,000 with the family, so it was certainly worth our time, that's for sure.
I feel like they should just send it to people, right? It's our money in our name. They should, send a postcard and just say, is this you? And if so, send this, and then boom, you're good.
Why is it that folks have to reach out to you? If you have people's information, why not just reach out to them?
A lot of this property, it requires documentation. So, we would like a signed claim form, a copy of photo ID, those kind of things. But, people's names change, people move. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to, just refund money to people, because it does take a lot of work.
And comes up Washington unclaimed property.
Uploading documentation is simple. That is, if you can track it down. One of Kathy's claims is from 2002. If she can't provide proof, she's at least glad to know the rest of her family is getting some of their money back.
Well, one of them said, "Is this a scam?" And then kind of joked about it, like, well, $105, do I really, am I really going to do this? But yeah, I absolutely am.
What do you guys think you're going to do with your newfound riches?
Probably retire. No, I don't know. Maybe go out to dinner or something. It's a nice little hit, and happy to get it.
With prices on the rise, we could all use a little extra money. For our number 7 story, Nicole Hernandez is tracking inflation through a simple hamburger.
Large up.
For 60 years,
Here you are, sir.
anyone passing 3rd and Division
Yeah, have a good day.
has seen this.
Dick's Hamburgers, staple of Spokane.
Jamie McBride has been general manager of Dick's for 2 years.
I've been here 30 years.
Over the years, she's learned their prices stand out in Spokane.
Volume. It's about volume here more than just trying to gouge the customers.
Even their best seller is cheap.
The Whammy is our most popular burger. It's $4.35. We do our best to keep our prices affordable.
But as for the rest of Spokane,
it has gotten crazy expensive. Can't do it anymore, hardly.
Rob Robson used to go out with his family all the time.
Probably twice a week.
But with the increasing prices now,
maybe twice a month.
Eating out in general is just more expensive than it used to be.
It's hard to get out for under $75.
We pulled burger prices from the top 15 sit-down burger joints in the city, according to Yelp. The most expensive place to get a burger on the list? Durkin's Famous Double at $19. And on average, the cheapest burger comes from Mary Lou's Milk Bottle. Their burgers average just $11.66. After comparing more than 100 prices, a burger will cost you, on average, $16.26 here in Spokane. It's even getting difficult for Dick's to keep their promise of low prices.
Right now, the cost of every product that we get in here is going up.
That inflation is hitting the customers' wallets.
We don't go out as much as we used to.
But Sherry Battle says it's more than just inflation affecting Spokane's prices.
Well, with Kindle Yards and that sort of things coming, the places have just got more yuppie, kind of is what I always tell my daughter. And she laughs at me. I'm like, oh yeah, things have gotten kind of yuppie here.
Sherry says upscale restaurants are replacing places like Rocky Rococo's and Azar's.
That's why I'm at Dick's.
But Dick's is planning on keeping the cheap eats around as long as possible.
From burgers to beers, small craft brewers are taking a hit following a major purchase in the beverage industry. Amanda Rowley explains how it could impact your next pint in our number 6 story.
PepsiCo's purchase of Corwin Beverage is a major blow to small craft brewers in Washington. That's because it leaves those brewers with no simple way to deliver product to grocery stores, restaurants, and bars. 2 of Corwin's smaller distributors, Kendall's Pioneer and Browar Polska, will likely shut down because of the purchase by PepsiCo. These closures don't directly impact any Spokane area breweries, but they're especially damaging to those in southwestern Washington. 10 Pin Brewing in Moses Lake is one of them.
Hopefully we can keep our product on the shelf even though it's coming from a different truck.
CEO Cale Russell says Kendall Pioneer isn't their only distributor, but he's hoping customers won't notice the impacts for very long.
It's on us to find a new distributor to sort of make sure that we're still able to get our product in front of the same customers that have always had it. And so there's a potential for a lag there.
He says this trend of big companies consolidating smaller distributors is becoming more common.
They seem to either gobble up territory or sort of decide that maybe that territory is not beneficial for their business.
10 Pin Brewing is established and big enough that Russell says it can keep up with big changes like this. But that's not the case for smaller breweries trying to expand their reach with distributors that continue getting gobbled up.
You feel bad for the guys that just got started and just started, sort of putting all of their attention and funds into these distributors, and then it's kind of like the rug's pulled out from under them.
The shutdown of the 2 southwestern Washington distributors is a concerning trend for the Washington Brewers Guild. The nonprofit alliance said in a statement that continued consolidation means less options for local craft breweries to choose from. And while this impacts all Washington craft brewers, it says this is particularly harmful to smaller breweries. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
We are halfway through our countdown of the top stories of 2023 so far. Up next at number 5 is a KREM 2 investigation. Shannon Mowdy uncovered how drivers were getting water pumped into their tanks instead of fuel.
Corinne Fletcher says she stopped off at the 76 at Wandemere 2 days after Christmas and left with an $800 repair bill. Now she wants the station to pay up.
Just a typical day, I filled up with about 11 gallons of gas, and within the first 5 minutes after filling up, my car went crazy.
That was December 27th, after Karina Fletcher says she stopped at this 76 gas station. Almost immediately, she says her car's alerts and codes started going off. She took it to the shop with no idea what was wrong.
They plugged it in for me and told me that there were 18 different misfirings, 18 different codes.
She later learned she wasn't alone in her car troubles.
A post that someone had posted about the 76 at Wandemere having water in their gas tank. So I immediately did some research of what that does to your car and figured out that's exactly what happened.
This was just a lot of water. After hours and hours of diagnosis, just basically taking a fuel sample and finding contaminated fuel was the culprit.
This is what they found in her tank.
This line is separating the fuel from the water that was in her gas tank.
The tank had to be drained.
I pulled 18.6 gallons out of the fuel tank. So I would say she was close to probably 35–45% of water to gas ratio in that tank.
The whole ordeal, which left her without the van for 8 days, ended with an $800 bill.
It can get expensive, depending on how long the water's in there. That can ruin fuel injectors, that can ruin electric fuel pumps in the tank. It can, water corrodes.
And with chatter on social media, it appears Karina isn't the only one dealing with this issue. Other people at other gas stations across Spokane say they also had costly repairs from pumping water with their gas. We called the 76 main office. They confirmed water was in the premium tank and they're paying for the tows and repairs for customers. But Karina says that didn't include her bill.
She goes, ooh, yeah, it's only our premium that had water in the gas tank. And I said, well, it wasn't though, because 5 minutes after I filled up with your fuel, I had water in the gas tank. And so I asked her, I go, do you expect me to think that that's somehow a coincidence that there's water in my gas tank and there were water in your gas tanks and it somehow didn't get there because of your gas? And she goes, yep, sorry, not my problem.
When we asked 76 for an interview to get answers, they said they'd call us back. So far, that call hasn't come.
I'm just hoping that there can be something that's done.
We're still working to get more answers, including how widespread this issue might be and what drivers can do to protect themselves. I reached out to the state agency that regulates fuel and inspects gas pumps. So far, I haven't heard back. In Spokane, Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
At number 4, we are celebrating 3 Spokane restaurants which were named among the best places to eat in Washington State by Seattle Met Magazine. Inland Pacific Kitchen, Cochinito Taqueria, and Gander and Ryegrass were recognized for their cuisine, drinks, and dining experiences. I had a chance to visit Gander and Ryegrass during Inlander Restaurant Week.
So olive puree, caper raisin chutney. I call it contemporary Italian. That which to me means that we root all of our flavors in Italian somehow, some way. So our menu's consistently changing and there's very few dishes that stick around for very long. First course, we focus on cold starters. So we'll see the steelhead a little bit later, pork rillettes and salad. The second course is more focused on our house pastas. There's 3 different options there, and then the final course is entrees. Here's our steelhead with white bean puree. On the far side here, we have the pork rillette with our house bread and beer mustard.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I could eat this all by myself.
Yeah, same. So we pitch ourselves as fine dining, which sometimes alludes to the fact that you need to be dressed up, but you certainly don't. We like to pair things that are fine and excellent with things that are very casual and normal.
I'm Mark Hanrahan. At KREM 2, we do more to cover issues that affect the growth in our region in our ongoing series, Boomtown.
Spokane's homeless population is growing at a faster rate. Rent prices have grown so much over the last few years.
I couldn't afford a 50% increase.
I'm Whitney Ward. We dig deeper so you have the information you need in this changing economy.
Do you think that the completion deadline gets moved back a few years?
Wage disparity is impacting businesses and our local economy. Boomtown on KREM 2 and always streaming on KREM 2 Plus.
KREM's Storm Tracker 2 team, certified most accurate.
Welcome back to our countdown of the top 10 stories in the Inland Northwest so far this year. This list is based on the stories that you clicked on and watched at KREM.com. At number 3, we hear from the parents of Anna Vetter. She's the construction worker killed when the building site she was working on collapsed.
Well, Paul and Sandy Vetter say they can't make sense of this tragedy because their daughter was always so focused on safety. They now want to know what went wrong, but getting answers today has not been easy.
He was barely able to talk, and he just says, I don't know how to tell you this.
Paul and Sandy Vetter got a call this afternoon from their daughter's fiance, a call that's changed their lives forever.
And he just said there was an accident on the job site where Anna was working, and she's gone.
Their daughter, 27-year-old Anna Vetter, had been working on an expansion project at the Spokane Tribe Casino for the last few months after becoming a journeyman carpenter.
So I'm so excited about, being in Spokane and being a part of the union, and as she gets up at the crack of dawn and goes to these job sites, and she just loves it.
Anna was also engaged and had just bought a home in 9 Mile Falls. She loved the outdoors, her fiance, and 4 dogs. Her dad says she never took a shortcut when it came to safety.
Safety was one of her major things, and for this to happen is just devastating.
Around 9:30 this morning, 911 dispatchers received multiple calls about a collapse at the construction site.
It looks like we had 4 collapses in an elevator shaft. We have 1 unresponsive female trapped right now.
Copy, 1 unresponsive female elevator shaft.
Many casino guests reported hearing the disaster.
I don't think I've ever heard anything that loud before. It sounded like an explosion, just really loud, and the ground shook.
Swinnerton Construction is building the expansion and says crews experienced a formwork collapse. Formwork is the mold used to form concrete into structural shapes. No other workers were hurt.
We want to keep the family in our thoughts and prayers, and all the construction workers.
At 5 this evening, nearly 8 hours after their daughter was killed, Paul and Sandy said they had still not received a call from authorities or the construction company letting them know about Anna. Their future son-in-law was the one to tell them. KREM 2 has also reached out to authorities for more information about the incident. We're still waiting to learn more.
We've learned more from your coverage than anything we've learned from any direct information.
They still have a lot of questions and want people to remember their daughter, who they say helped pave the way for other women working in construction.
Whenever she kind of met a challenge, she would, buckle down and work through it.
And we also reached out to the Department of Labor and Industries. They told us investigations like this can be complex and could take 6 months to complete.
Our second biggest story brought national attention to the inland Northwest. The suspect in the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students returned to Moscow, Idaho, after his arrest in Pennsylvania. Here's a look at some of our coverage of the case.
18 pages tell terrifying details of the early morning hours of November 13th, including pinpointing the time of the alleged murders. The affidavit also describes how forensic evidence and video brought into focus a suspect and his movements before and after the crime. But some of the most startling information comes from one of the 2 survivors inside the home at the time of the murders. In the document, the roommates are not identified by name. Both roommates telling authorities the 4 victims were all home by 2 a.m. and in their rooms by about 4. But the document also tells the story of how one survivor reported coming face to face with the suspect. One of the surviving roommates told investigators that at about 4 a.m. in her room on the 2nd floor, a noise awoke her. She thought it sounded like Kaylee Gonzalez playing with her dog on the 3rd floor. A short time later, the roommate said she thought she heard Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." Next, court documents show she opened her door but didn't see anything. Authorities say it could have been Xana Kernodle talking as she was on TikTok at approximately 4:12 and still awake. The roommate then stated she opened the door a second time after hearing what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. She explained she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." About 5 minutes later at 4:17, a nearby security camera picked up audio of what sounds like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. Also, a dog can be heard barking numerous times. The roommate states she then opened the door for a 3rd time after she heard crying and then saw what she described as a figure clad in black clothing and wearing a mask that covered his mouth and nose. She told authorities the man walked right toward her. She described him as being about 5 feet 10 inches tall, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. She stood in what she described in the document as a frozen shock phase. In her statement, she said the man walked past her and toward the sliding glass door. And that's when she said she locked herself in the room after seeing the man. Investigators believe the suspect then left, leaving behind 4 victims and a trail of evidence that ultimately led them to Brian Kohberger.
Brian Kohberger is now locked up in the Latah County Jail behind me, nearly 2 months after those 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. We were in Pullman tonight as his plane touched down. Brian Kohberger touching down at the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport just after 6 tonight on board a Pennsylvania State Police plane which traveled across the country, a day after Kohberger waived extradition. The 28-year-old murder suspect, wearing a black coat over his red jumpsuit, spent less than a minute on the tarmac, moving from the single-engine plane to a sheriff's pickup truck. The windows inside were covered up. That truck was escorted from the airport through downtown Moscow. Kohberger arrived at the jail within a matter of minutes. We saw a garage door open and immediately close once the pickup was inside. A large crowd of students and Moscow residents gathered to watch. Less than an hour after landing on the Palouse, Kohberger was booked into the Latah County Jail, charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. He's currently being held without bond. Kohberger is set to be arraigned in court tomorrow morning. KREM 2 will be there. In Moscow tonight, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
This initial appearance was very quick and the courtroom was completely full of members of the media. But sitting in the front row was the family of Kaylee Gonsalves, one of the murdered University of Idaho students. Now, during the hearing, the suspect showed no emotion and said very little, meaning he only responded to questions the judge had for him.
The man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students appeared for the first time in Idaho court. Brian Kohberger is charged with 1 count of burglary and 4 counts of murder. In his initial appearance hearing, the magistrate judge read through each of those charges.
Do you understand?
Yes. The max penalty for each count of murder in the first degree is death or life in prison. Kootenai County's chief public defender, Ann Taylor, is representing the suspect. She was also the defense attorney in a high-profile case 17 years ago in North Idaho. Jonathan Ellington went to trial twice in a fatal road rage case and was eventually found guilty of murder and aggravated battery.
I have court-appointed counsel.
Kohberger's attorney argued against him being held in jail without bond. But Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson told the judge Idaho law does not entitle the suspect to a bond because of the charges against him, adding that he was arrested across the country from Moscow. The judge decided Kohberger will remain in jail without bail. She also gave the suspect a no-contact order, which prohibits him from having any contact with the victims' families, friends, and the surviving roommates. Shortly after the hearing this morning, the attorney representing the Gonsalves family commented on their behalf.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul.
Today, I also checked in at Mad Greek, the restaurant where Madison Mogan and Xana Kernodle worked. The staff say they do not recognize the murder suspect or recall serving him.
Thank you for joining us for this countdown of the top stories of the year so far. Our #1 and most clicked on story on KREM.com is a new gold rush in the town of Republic. More than $3 billion in gold deposits were discovered in the area. Nicole Hernandez shows us how the newfound gold is already having an impact.
We're just going to cruise up through town.
In a place where the amount of wildlife
We have a deer population in town.
seems to match the human population.
Between 800 and 1,000 people at all times.
Mayor Albert Kuntz says there's one thing the city of Republic, Washington has even more of. Block after block, you can see the history of gold mining has a hold on the city.
When I first came in '88, we had Hecla Mine, and it was producing. The people were making good money.
Over the years, the cost of mining and scarcity of gold forced Hecla and other mines to close, leaving Republic's literal rich history underground.
We have been rated the coldest county in the state of Washington. We have been rated the poorest.
But now there's a chance history repeats itself.
And now we have $3 billion worth of gold 3 miles out of town.
Caliber Mine released findings of exploratory drilling in the foothills of Republic, saying 2 million ounces of gold is sitting in the Golden Eagle mine.
For us, it would be a boon. I mean, the town would grow and prosper, and you would have some really good paying jobs.
A glimpse of the town's golden years now on the horizon once again. But some in town aren't sure about the prospect.
I'm a bit of a pessimist at heart.
Sean French has lived in Republic almost his whole life.
We're a nice little small community, and it comes with it the worry that a lot of people might try to move up here just to try and get some gold.
Caliber Mines says 4 million ounces of gold has come out of this mining region over the past 130 years. The last operating mine in the area closed in 2017, but rekindling that history of mining won't be easy.
Knowing the process that they're going to have to go through, it's going to be a few years before this happens. It's not going to be like next week they're going to start.
The company will need to secure permits. Plus, Mayor Elbert says the existing mine itself would need a lot of work to get up and running again. But no matter what the future holds, the news of gold is taking hold in the town once again. In Republic, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us for this KREM 2 Plus special. You can get our latest newscasts anytime. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.